YouTube channel, Sectum Psycho, where I talk about everything literature related, dark academia, and books that I just really enjoy. First of all, I want to say thank you for 15 subscribers. It's really funny to me because I posted a TikTok. By the way, you can follow my TikTok if that is something you're interested in. I posted a TikTok saying about how I made a video about the secret history, and actually some of you guys followed me through that, so thank you a lot for that. And today I want to talk about another book that stayed on my mind. I finished reading it like in August, and I've been wanting to make a video about it for quite some time, but I just never got around to it. If you don't know, I'm at university, I study sociology, and the new term has just started and we're returning to campus. So for the first time in 1.5 years, so that's why I didn't really have time. But today I figured I'm gonna take the time to do another literature review. I want to talk about The Song of Achilles. And if you know this book, and if you have read this book, you most probably know why I want to talk about it. It is a novel by the author Madeline Miller, basically a reimagination of the Iliad, of Achilles' story basically. Before I got into it, I have actually never read the Iliad. I was always interested in Greek mythology, but somehow I always was scared of reading because I felt like I wasn't qualified to read it. It's really stupid, but that's what the idea of classics does to you, I think. I actually started reading the Iliad to compare it to this one. So there will be some comparison to Homer's Iliad to this. If you know Achilles, he's often described as like the best of all Greeks, and he is the son of the cruel sea goddess Thetis. Achilles is strong, swift, and beautiful, and like irresistible to everyone that comes in contact with him. And Patroclus is a young, awkward prince. They are brought together by chance, basically, and they forge an inseparable bond, basically, despite risking the god's wrath, because Achilles has like prophecy, and by being together they kind of defy that prophecy. When word comes that Helen of Sparta has been kidnapped, the heroes of Greece are summoned and called to fight a siege to Troy, or like lay siege to Troy. Achilles is kind of seduced by this destiny and this cause, and is torn between love and fear. Patroclus always goes where Achilles goes. Little do they know that this will have fatal consequences, and yeah, that is actually what this book is about. It focuses on Patroclus, it is out of his perspective, and it follows the two through their adventure and through the Iliad, basically, and through the Trojan War. This was like a brief introduction, a non-spoiler introduction, and now I want to talk about a summary, the spoiler territory. So if you haven't read the book yet and you want to read it, please click off this video now. I'm gonna talk about what happens in this book exactly, and about the characters, and about how it's written, and make the comparison to the Iliad. So if you're interested in that, keep watching. Okay, so in this part of the video, I will go into a spoiler summary and tell you exactly what happens in the Song of Achilles, so we can dig deeper into what I actually liked about the book. So the Song of Achilles, as I already said, is told from the perspective of Achilles' lover, Patroclus. Patroclus, who is a young Greek prince, grows up with a father which is disappointed by him and by his mediocrity, that he's not like the biggest star out of everyone. When Patroclus is 9 years old, his father takes him to Sparta, where Patroclus presents himself as a suitor for Helen. Helen chooses a different husband called Menelaus from the suitors, and the rest of the men take an oath that they will defend her choice. After Patroclus accidentally kills a boy of noble birth, his father exiles him to Phthia, where he befriends King Peleus' son Achilles. At first, Patroclus is resistant to the friendship with Achilles, but eventually the two develop a really strong bond. Patroclus becomes Achilles' brother in arms, who is sworn to him by blood oath and love, and Patroclus follows Achilles to Mount Pelion, where they are trained by centaur Chiron. Achilles' mother, the sea nymph Thetis, expresses her dislike for Achilles and Patroclus' relationship almost right away, and she hates that Patroclus followed Achilles to Mount Pelion. Over the days in Mount Pelion, they are basically alone most of the time, except when they are with the centaur. They discover that they share more than just a friendship, and they have such a huge and deep bond that in the end they discover that they actually love each other. And one night when they are alone, Achilles says that their mother can't see them there. So that night when they are completely alone and not being watched by his mother, Achilles and Patroclus make love. Patroclus and Achilles are eventually, after many years, called back to Phthia, where they learn that Paris of Troy has kidnapped Helen of Sparta. Patroclus remembers the oath he took as a child to defend Menelaus and Helen, and Patroclus worries that he will be drawn into the war. There is a prophecy that says the war against Troy is where Achilles will make his name and become godlike, but he will also die at a war after the Trojan Hector dies. At first, Achilles resists joining the fight, with Thetis even hiding him on another island of Skyros with King Lycomedes. At Skyros, Achilles masquerades as a girl to avoid the war completely. Lycomedes' daughter, Deidameia, discovers Achilles' disguise and secretly marries him, conceiving a child named Pyrrhus. When Odysseus and Diomedes arrive at Skyros and reveal Achilles' true identity, they convince him to go to Troy. Patroclus follows, knowing that Achilles is his true love and he would rather die than be separated from him. Achilles and Patroclus join the Greeks, led by Agamemnon, and go to war with the Trojans at Troy. Achilles wins multiple fights, demonstrating his superior warrior strength. It kind of gets to him a little bit. He realizes how strong and mighty he actually is, and when the Greeks raid the Trojans, Achilles claims a young girl named Briseis from the plunder, attempting to save her from Agamemnon's violent lusts. Patroclus and Briseis actually become close companions very quickly, and they bond. It's really sweet because first Briseis is obviously very traumatized, but she gets closer to Patroclus and they become really good friends. When Agamemnon offends the gods by refusing to return the daughter of a priest, the gods send a plague amongst the Greeks. Achilles tries to tell the Greeks that the reason for the plague is Agamemnon's refusal to return the girl. Agamemnon responds by taking Briseis away from Achilles and dishonoring him in front of the rest of the men. As a result, Achilles refuses to fight in Agamemnon's ranks, believing himself to be superior and better than them. As the Greeks, subsequently of Achilles' loss, lose battles and soldiers die in scores, Patroclus begs Achilles to join them back in fighting, because he sees his friends die around him and he cannot believe that Achilles would just watch. Achilles refuses this. He is too proud. He will not fight for Agamemnon, knowing how bad he is. And eventually, Patroclus convinces Achilles to lend him his armor, and Patroclus goes into the fight pretending to be Achilles. It actually helps. The soldiers get inspired by seeing Achilles back on the battlefield. They seem to win the war again, and Patroclus actually kills one of the strongest Trojan warriors, but sadly he is struck and his armor falls off, and everyone sees that he's not Achilles but Patroclus, and he's eventually killed by Hector shortly after. I will read you the quote where Patroclus dies and what goes on in his head.
No, my hands flurry in the air like startled birds, trying to hold the spear's relentless movement towards my belly. But I am weak as a baby against Hector's strength, and my palms give away, unspooling in ribbons of red. The spearhead submerges in a sear of pain so great that my breath stops, a boil of agony that bursts over my whole stomach. My head drops back against the ground. The last image I see is of Hector, leaning seriously over me, twisting his spear inside me as if he's stirring a pot. The last thing I think is Achilles.
Oh my god, it hurts my soul. When Achilles discovers this, he is mad with grief. The scene where Achilles finds Patroclus' body is probably one of the most devastating scenes in this book. And I actually want to read you the quote from it.
All he can see is blood-stained cloth. With a roar, he throws Antilochus from him, knocks down Menelaus. He falls on the body. The knowledge rushes up in him, choking off breath. A scream comes, tearing its way out, and then another, and another. He seizes his hair in his hand and yanks it from its head. Golden strands fall onto the bloody corpse. Patroclus, he says, Patroclus, Patroclus, over and over until it is sound only.
When I was reading this, I was so mad at Achilles. I was like, how could you let this happen? How could you let him go into battle when you knew he wasn't a warrior? And all of that, I was really, really mad at Achilles. And Braces basically put it into words for me. And literally, I felt like she was me in that moment because I was so mad. This is what Braces says.
Get away from him, he says. I'm almost finished. He does not deserve to lie in filth. I would not have your hands on him. Her eyes are sharp with tears. Do you think you are the only one who loved him? Get out. Get out. You are more for him in death than in life. Her voice is bitter with grief. How could you have let him go? You knew he could not fight. Achilles screams and shatters a serving bow. Get out! Briseis does not flinch. Kill me. It will not bring him back. He was worth 10 of you. 10! And you sent him to his death. The sound that comes from him is hardly human. I tried to stop him. I told him not to leave the beach. You are the one who made him go. Briseis steps towards him. He fought to save you and your darling reputation because he could not bear to see you suffer. Achilles buries his face in his hands, but she does not relent. You have never deserved him. I do not know why he ever loved you. You only care for yourself. Achilles' gaze lifts to meet hers. She's afraid, but does not draw back. I hope that Hector kills you. The breath rasps in his throat. Do you think I do not hope the same? He asks.
Oh my god, this is so hard. This is so gut-wrenching and tears my heart apart because I totally understand where Briseis is coming from. She saw this coming. She saw how madly in love Patroclus was with Achilles. Achilles is mad with grief and returns to war after Patroclus' death and eventually kills Hector, parading Hector's fallen body around in process. King Priam of Troy visits Achilles one night and begs him to release Hector's body so that he can have a proper funeral. Achilles agrees to this. As the war continues, Achilles kills more and more notable Trojans, and he is finally killed by Paris, King Priam's son who had taken Helen, when Paris shoots Achilles with an arrow. Afterward, Achilles' son Pyrrhus enters the war. Oh my god, Pyrrhus made me so angry because he rejects the idea of Achilles' ashes being buried alongside Patroclus, even though that was Achilles' wish. It's really devastating because for so long Patroclus is in his half-life, half-death. He cannot join Achilles in the underworld because he is never buried. Odysseus as well tries to convince Pyrrhus to bury Patroclus' ashes with Achilles, telling him that that was his father's last wish, but Paris is just a complete asshole and refuses to do it. Odysseus leaves and Patroclus is still not buried. He says this because Patroclus is in this state where he's like half alive, half dead, so the book is still written out of his perspective, which is so devastating because you can see how he feels and how he just wants to be reunited with Achilles in the afterlife, and he can't. So
the Greeks sail and take my hope with them. I cannot follow. I am tied to this earth where my ashes lie. I curl myself around the stone obelisk of his tomb. Perhaps it is cool to the touch, perhaps warm. I cannot tell. Achilles, it says, and nothing more. He has gone to the underworld, and I am here.
After some time, Patroclus notices that Thetis, the mother of Achilles, has come to his grave, and he begs her to bury him by Achilles so that he can join him in the afterlife. In the end, she reunites Patroclus and Achilles after he begs her to do so. She finally comes over herself and buries him with him by writing his name on the tombstone by Achilles. And the last quote of this book is probably the most beautiful one, and the entire last pages of the book had me weeping because the love story between Patroclus and Achilles was so pure, and all the the bad things that happened, they both did not deserve, and I really thought that they would not get their happy ending and that Patroclus would be stuck on Earth alone forever. But I really was glad that Thetis came over herself and decided to let them join together in the afterlife. And the last quote, when Patroclus is finally free to go see Achilles again, is the one as follows.
In the darkness, two shadows, reaching through the hopeless heavy dusk, their hands meet, and light spills in a flood like 100 golden urns pouring out of the sun.
When I read that, I was just crying so hard. I was crying and I was happy and I was sad, and I was just glad that they had their happy ending, even though it was not the one I had hoped for, but still that they were reunited in the end. That it made it all worth it. Now that you have the summary, I want to tell you a little bit about the author, Madeline Miller. She grew up in Philadelphia and has a bachelor and a master's from Brown University in Latin and ancient Greek, and has actually taught in both languages. She also studied at the Yale School of Drama, specializing in adapting classics, which she did, to a modern audience. And this book was actually her very first novel, which is incredible because what a start of novel this is. She actually wrote this for 10 years, so you can really tell how much love and thought and heart she put into this. And yeah, it has become one of my favorite books. So also I really love how this is designed. So beautiful. So Achilles first, a beautiful, innocent and naive boy. He was every bit the hero that people believed him to be, and most of the time he actually did the right thing. At the end of the book, obviously there was a lot that happened and things I obviously did not agree with him on. It made me so sad to see how much Achilles turned into the thing that he promised Patroclus not to turn into. As I said, the reaction that Briseis had towards Patroclus' death and how she screamed at Achilles, that was how I felt in that very moment. Achilles was this wonderful, perfect, honorable, intelligent, innocent and honest golden boy, and then the war over Troy completely tainted him and transformed him and made him into a different person, which war usually does to someone. True tragedy, I think, about it all is that he never wanted to be part of the war. In retrospect, I think he would have been a normal person than a hero. I guess in the end Achilles saw it the same way and would have done everything in order to change his path, even if it could have meant that he would have been forgotten and never became a legend. Moving on to Patroclus. I adored Patroclus. I think he was the best character in this book. He was wonderful in his own way, and I loved how faithful and trustworthy and loyal he was. Patroclus always was the better voice in Achilles. It was his conscience, kind of bringing him back to earth when his god side showed himself, his half-god side. And I think without Patroclus, Achilles would have gone on such a more dark and bloody route. Only through Patroclus, Achilles really got to be the person that legends made him out to be. And as we all know, Patroclus was so much more than just a companion to Achilles. He was his friend, a teacher, a lover. He was his past, his present, and his future. The boy was literally the embodiment of Achilles, his life and his actions, and the people around him. Patroclus was always the best thing in Achilles and brought out the best in him and showed him what love and compassion feels like. He was actually the person that he could speak to and confide in. I think once Patroclus was gone, all the good things in Achilles faded and was gone, and it was just the ruthlessness and bloodiness and terror left. Achilles never could have actually lived without Patroclus for long, even if it was not destined to happen. Okay, next. Agamemnon, and I think this is the character that I can truly say I hated. I absolutely hated. He's such an unfair person and dishonorable as well. He traded his own daughter away and then killed her. I mean, it was just ruthless, honestly. And the tense situation with him and Achilles, I wanted to scream at the injustice that took place in front of everyone, because Achilles was speaking the truth, telling everyone that Agamemnon was responsible for their huge disadvantage of the plague that they were going through, but no one really believed Achilles. Agamemnon was really stubborn and self-righteous, and if he would have listened to Achilles, I think they would have all lived, but he was too proud, so not a good dude, not a good dude. Another person that I feel very conflicted about is Thetis, the mother of Achilles, the sea nymph. I disliked her, but I understand where she was coming from. I mean, she was Achilles' mother. She wanted to protect him and wanted the best for her son. But it was more than obvious that Patroclus was the best thing that could have ever happened to Achilles, but she hated him with a passion. It was very homophobic. She hated the relationship that the two were in. I mean, I don't know if it was because Patroclus was a mortal or if it was because it was a boy. Maybe both. She will always try to put this ledge through them. Luckily, she never succeeded, but without Thetis, half of their worries kind of would not have existed. But she redeemed herself, in my opinion, in the end. Made the biggest deal of them all and reunited them, even though she never liked Patroclus. So I think she kind of redeemed herself in the end for me. She's not gonna win the Mother of the Year award, but I mean, it's Greek mythology after all. We all know how strange family values are here, so cannot say that I blame her, but yeah, that is my small opinion on her. And oh my god, how sweet those two were. I absolutely loved their relationship. They were so gentle and adorable, and no matter what happened to them, and no matter how many obstacles were put in their way, they always managed to find a way back to each other. And they had confidence and supported each other regardless of the consequences. And their relationship was just so honest and real and beautiful, and it was the real deal. Like, I don't think I have ever read such a beautiful love story in any book ever. They both would not want to live without each other. They were so passionate, and it sets the bar for love really, really high, I must say that. Their connection was so deep, nothing could destroy it. Even though Patroclus mostly wasn't always happy with Achilles' decisions, he still did his best to support him, even if it meant that he had to go against his own will. I think in the end, their unconditional love for each other was the only thing that was able to break them. Achilles, for the longest time, had no reason to kill Hector, and that's why they thought that both Achilles and Patroclus would live long, because Achilles swore to himself that he would never kill Hector, because if he would never kill Hector, he would never die. So he would never fulfill the prophecy that was brought to him. But when Hector took the only thing that really mattered to Achilles, which was Patroclus, he didn't really see a reason for him to keep living, and if he dies, he might as well die while killing the person that killed his lover. As I said before, I think it is really beautiful that their love was even strong enough to connect them in the afterlife again. And they always found a way back to each other, which is beautiful. Two quotes actually that I absolutely loved about their relationship were the two that follow.
Had she really thought I would not know him? I could recognize him by touch alone, by smell. I would know him blind, by the way his breaths came and his feet stuck to the earth. I wouldn't know him in death and at the end of the world.
And another one that I think is really beautiful is,
we were like gods at the dawning of the world, and our joy was bright. We could see nothing else but the other.
So I will now go into differences between the Iliad, I have this book form, it's really beautiful, and the Song of Achilles, and tell you what kind of the difference is. I recommend it if you want to know more about the actual tale, but I understand if you don't want to read it. In Homer's Iliad, an omniscient narrator gives insight into the thoughts and feelings of the characters, even the smaller ones. Whereas in the Song of Achilles, Madeline Miller chose Patroclus, the lesser-known hero, as the protagonist, who narrates the story of Achilles from a very unique standpoint. By doing so, she rebuilds an already well-established narrative with a new structure. And actually the background material that inspired Miller was, and the title as well, is The Wrath of Achilles, that Homer sang for in his Iliad, became the background material in Miller's book. In the end, the story itself, like if you just take a look at the Trojan War and how the story progresses, they are similar, they are very similar, the exact same plot points happen. This is just focused on the perspective of Patroclus and Achilles as a relationship and the deeper meaning of them. And I think could be interpreted by reading the Iliad as well through queer reading. So, well, if you cannot tell, I absolutely adore this novel, and I recommend it to everyone that I know likes tragic stories and is interested in Greek mythology. I think this is the best. And even if you're not interested in Greek mythology, that is totally fine. You do not have to read the Iliad to read this. You don't have to have any knowledge of any of the characters. You can just read it for what it is. I think it's really a reinterpretation of the Iliad through queer reading and like queer coding, and rediscovering what might have been hidden in ancient texts through kind of pushing away the heteronormative perspective that we have in society and how texts are written. And I think Madeline Miller did such a beautiful job at truly showing how a relationship can develop without it being heteronormative. So yeah, that is my discussion of The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I hope you enjoyed this second video I did. I have more videos planned because I read a lot of good books recently. Let me know if you enjoyed this by hitting the subscribe button and like the video. And yeah, let me know if you have read The Song of Achilles, if you liked it, if you didn't like it, who your favorite character was. And yeah, I know this book has gotten a lot of hype, but I think it absolutely deserves every single cent of the hype. That is it from me. I hope we see each other again soon, and I wish you a very pleasant day or night wherever you are. See you soon. Bye.